All right. Well, we're going to get rolling, and I'm just so thrilled. As people pop on as well, they'll be able to hang with us a little bit and have some fun. This is, I can confidently tell you, this is I can't say it's my favorite subject necessarily. I don't want to claim that because honestly, I think the character traits that we went through on the last webinar, that might be my favorite because it kicked my butt because I'm a lion. So it kicked my butt the most where I realized, hey, people are wired differently. This subject, though, around urgency, to me, I think it is one of personally, my greatest secrets. It is my greatest life hack. It is my work hack, my career hack. And I think it's something that once you get it, you can't unget it. Meaning, like once you see it, you'll start filtering things through this lens and through this perspective. And so it's just a lot of fun for me to go through. You'll probably have some questions. Once again, at the end, I want to kind of really try to focus on our Q&A portion at the very end of this because it's going to be a lot of fun too. I'm going to try to get through this subject because it's not complex. It's actually a lot of fun to kind of preview and almost put this pair of eyeglasses on. But I want to get to the Q&A section, and I really want to break down, assuming we've got time, because I'm really committed to trying to keep this to 30 minutes. But I want to have some real life examples and saying, okay, what about this for our team? If we're going to achieve that, how do we start creating and communicating and getting people actually on track and committed to doing it urgently, right? So I do want to take plenty of time for that. So here's our roadmap today. The first thing we're going to tackle is how to build a great story. All right. And because urgency comes out of telling a really great story. Secondly, we're going to talk about something called inverted thinking. And if any of you are fans of Charlie Munger, who's good buddies with, or was, he just passed away, I think a couple weeks ago, but he was a billionaire investor, good buddies with Warren Buffett. He was kind of famous for coining this. We're going to talk about that. And that, to me, is probably the greatest exercise you will ever be able to do with any of your team goals. And then at the very end, we're going to have our Q&A. Now, a PDF is coming. All right. So just similar to last time, there's a PDF coming out here at 12:30 Eastern. It should be all sent to your emails. And that it's sitting right there. So yes, take notes as we go through this, but I purposefully delay the PDF because I want you just to enjoy the information and get the broad spectrum, and then be able to take the PDF later to be able to actually apply it and study it. There are very useful links in there as well. You'll be able to kind of take that information and again, go back and try to churn through that at a later time. I'm also recording this, so I'll send the recordings afterwards as well. And I hope all that's very helpful. But that's the whole purpose of sending the PDF later. Don't worry about getting line by line what we're going through. Enjoy it, get the broader perspective of it, and then we'll go and make all this happen. So first of all, urgency, all right? Urgency is caught, not taught. So I want you to think of achoo, all right? If I was to name a webinar something very vague and abstract, it would be achoo, like a sneeze sound, all right? So I was going to try to purposefully get on here and try to come up with a fake sneeze and just this outrageously loud sneeze. But here's my goal. I hope every time you hear someone sneeze, you think of this webinar, all right? Urgency is caught, not taught, meaning it starts with you as the leader. All right. It is your job to pass on, to infect other people with urgency. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, I know, but I am. I get it. I'm urgent. I get the goals. I understand what we're trying to go and accomplish. And so sometimes the issue is more so with trying to communicate that urgency. And I know how that works. And so that's what I want today. Today is about, yes, we're going to capture that urgency, but how do you communicate it effectively to the rest of your team? All right. But urgency is caught, not taught. We're going to infect some people. Okay. And here's what's happened. I love this stat, by the way. Only 33% of employees are actively committed to doing a good job. 51% merely put their time in, while the remaining 16% act out of their discontent in counterproductive ways that negatively influence people. Now, and I don't know if you would agree with that with your specific team in your salon, but I think that 51% number was the thing that was so concerning to me the most. But I see that in Monster Jam, right? Half of the drivers are there just to kind of get their paycheck and move on. I see that in speaking. I see that in any corporate environment I go into. It's about half and half where, 51%, they're there kind of for themselves. And they get it that the team's doing something, but they're really not trying to find that urgency. And so that's the question is, what are we going to do about that? How do we actually pull that 51% into the fold and get them excited about where the team is going? All right. So I have a confession though. I'm about to ruin movies for you. Okay. I don't know if any of you are big movie buffs. I do enjoy movies. I read a book. It's there in the corner, Building a Story Brand. Okay. And this is the book right here. This communication style, I guess, is built on this book. And I don't know if any of you have read it or not. I keep trying to get the camera to pick it up, and it's just getting blown out. So of course I've got the piece right there. But this book to me not only changed the way that I started thinking about branding and marketing, but also changed the way I thought about leadership. And it ruined movies for me. Okay. So I want to take this whole framework is based around a main character. All right. So let's take Bruce Wayne. Okay. So Batman, right? Bruce Wayne's character. If you think about how they built that, he's a billionaire playboy. He's an orphan, and he's a regular guy until he's not, until he becomes Batman, right? But the main character is Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, in every movie that he's done, and if you go back to the start of it all, he has a problem. All right, so it's in this storyline, it's going to be Joker, and Joker is threatening his way of life. He's threatening Bruce Wayne's way of life. So that main character's got a problem. Who, thirdly, he meets a guide. All right, every movie plot line follows this. Every good movie. All right, this is why I say it's going to ruin movies for you, because you're going to see this flow in everything from Batman to The Notebook to a war movie. All right, there's always a main character who's got a problem, but there's always a guide that comes in to step into that storyline. That guide, in this case, Alfred, he gives them a plan. Alfred is the one that goes to Bruce Wayne, and he's starting to enable his Batmobile. Alfred runs the Batcave. He comes up with all the new technology, doesn't he? He's also the one, if you've seen any of the Batman movies, that when Bruce Wayne is having this crisis of belief or this issue, what happens? Alfred steps in, doesn't he? And after he gives them a plan, he calls them to action. So it's one thing just to build a Batmobile. It's one thing just to build Bruce Wayne a Batman suit. But at some point, that plan has got to get Bruce Wayne into the suit and out there to fight the crime. All right. The ultimate goal, though, is going to end in success. So there's really two options. And that, to me, is the goal. So all of a sudden, you've got Alfred gives them a plan, calls them into action that hopefully ends in success. And then lastly, but also helps them avoid failure. So this is what we're talking about. Every great movie follows this storyline where it's not just enough to say, okay, let's create this character. Let's have Alfred, his guide, come in, his mentor, come in and enable him and equip him to go and fight the crime, to go and succeed and beat the bad guy, beat Joker. That's not enough. There has got to be something at stake for the main character in every good drama and in every good movie. So the ability for that director, that producer, to communicate those two things are monumentally important for a really great movie and a great story. And so here's what we've got to understand, though, as leaders, is that our process is no different. The goal, right? You've got the success, those are your goals that you're setting. But down in that little bottom corner, what does failure look like? What is he avoiding? The failure that he's avoiding, that is the secret to urgency. Right? Our main character, yes, they want to, Batman wants to go and win and beat Joker. But what happens if Batman doesn't beat Joker? Gotham City burns. Crime wins, evil wins. What happens when Joker's the one that's calling the shots? That's what gets Batman into the suit, into the Batmobile to go and fight the crime more than just the goals. And so if I want you to kind of look at this a certain way, because you can look at this through brand branding and marketing, and it's a really good process to go through, because a lot of times if you go through this book, the customer is the main character. But for our sake today, I want you to think about your employee, that one that's so difficult to kind of get to engage in the process with each of you, or where the team is going as a salon. If your employee is the main character, then what is your role for them as their leader? Right there. Okay. You are their guide. You have got to be Alfred. You have got to be the one that's stepping into their story, and you are the one that's able to equip them with the things that they need to become Batman, so to speak, or Batwoman, right? They've got to have what they need to go and achieve their goal, but also to avoid failure. And so here's what I mean by that. When you are able to communicate effectively to each of your employees as leaders, what is at stake for them in the midst of this process of trying to attain this goal? Sometimes, yes, sometimes it's the ability to do it as a group and as a team, right? Where are we going as an organization? And we're going to touch on that in just a minute. But sometimes you need to step in at a personal, individual level. You've got to understand what is driving them, right? Why they want to be here on this team. Why do they want to be a stylist? Why did they choose Great Clips? What is their personal and individual goals? But you also have got to understand what is at stake if it does not happen. This is where urgency comes from, right? Urgency never comes from this crystal clear goal. It just doesn't. I kind of wish it did. But the best leaders that I come across and that I see, they understand this difference. And my shift, okay, my ability to become a better leader came from understanding this. Yes, I can crystallize the goal, and I can talk about it all the time to my team and the people that I lead. And oh, I got the best goal and I got the best vision. I came into 2024 and man, I know exactly the steps that I want to hit and where I want to go and where my team wants to go. But a lot of you, here it is, it's February 6th. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes you get about 30 days into chasing a goal and it's like all the magic wears off. And you're like, where did everyone's motivation go? It seems like everyone's forgotten about the goal. And the problem is they didn't forget about the goal, but there's nothing that's going to change if the goal is not hit. That's the difference. That is the difference. We could stop the whole webinar here. And if you just get that point, then everything about life and where you're going will change. Yes, you've got great goals. Yes, you've become excellent at setting that vision. But what you've got to get very comfortable with is communicating what happens or changes if the goal isn't reached. Now, if you're a natural human like me, you would think to yourself, okay, but does that mean all we communicate are failures and fear? No. Okay. You can overdo this. I'm not saying make your salon fear-based, but fear drives our action more than even the carrot, you know? So this is not become a stick organization versus the carrot. But you've got to help people understand what actually happens if we don't miss the goal. And it's not just well, you all get fired. No. Okay. And we're going to work on that here in just a second. We're going to use a real case example. But the thing that I'll give you a personal example before I dive into a salon. All right. Or let's dive into kind of maybe a situation that you're in. I learned this whole thing, not even just before the book. The book kind of gave me the verbiage for it. I learned this back in high school soccer. I know what you're thinking, right? That you thought I was a football player. No, I was a soccer player. I remember in high school, we had a coach come in. And this coach, he absolutely became my Alfred. He's still one of my mentors and one of my life coaches today. But he came in my sophomore year of high school. And our soccer program before this used to be nationally ranked in high school soccer. It was a powerhouse, but for the 6 years previous to this coach arriving, it had really fallen off. We had all these different coaches that came in. The program just really kind of imploded in a way. This coach came in and he was so different, but he was so motivating. He was somebody you wanted to suit up and go play for, right? he was the kind of coach that off of the field, he sat down long enough to get to know us as players. He also helped us understand a little bit more of life. I got to the end of that sophomore season and I realized that I would become a better man as a result of playing for this coach. But we had a problem. The program was not known for winning like it used to be. There used to be players that would come to this school just to play soccer at Wesleyan Academy. Well, people weren't leaving their schools or their state to come play at Wesleyan Academy soccer anymore. And I thought to myself, if we can get the program back to a level of winning state championships and being nationally competitive again, then that means that more players are going to come in to Wesleyan Academy and will play for Scott Reitnauer. I just knew that if we could win again, if we could go and win state championships again, that they would come in and have their lives bettered by playing for Scott Reitnauer. And so, yes, I wanted to win a state championship, but my goal, if you think about that flow again for a story, right? Every good story out there. If I was the main character, I had a problem. You know, the guide was my coach, and he gave me a plan to go and to win, and actually called me into action to do that. Well, and that hopefully, you know, was successful. That goal, the success bucket for me was a state championship. But that's not that's not what woke me up in the morning and got me excited to go out there and play for this guy. What got me urgently onto the field, working my guts out, he never had to tell me to go practice harder, right? Because the urgency that was built in me was, if we do not win this state championship, there will be lots of players out there that never come and play for Scott Reitnauer and will not have their lives changed. What if, like, if we don't win this state championship and they don't come, what if they don't become a better father down the road, right? Or a better brother, or better son? What if they don't become a better husband? What if they do come in just because it was a platform of winning again, they do come in, they play for Scott Reitnauer, their lives do get changed, they are a better husband down the road. Do you see the difference in that? Did I want the state championship? Yes, I wanted the success. But I was also working my guts out urgently to avoid the failure. What changes by not hitting the goal? In that moment, people's lives were at stake, right? That's the difference. Okay. So that's what I want you guys to try to grasp here. Now, let's set this. Okay. Let's take a real goal. Let's increase customer count by 100 a week by the end of 2024. Let's say there's a salon out there that had that goal. And you've got to forgive me too, because I know that you'll be able to take this, and this would be a great exercise for you also. I do want you, homework wise, to think about the goals you've got and to be able to go in there and take this same process and thought process and just apply it and almost do it like a worksheet. So what do we get if we win? If we increase 100 a week by the end of 2024, and I'm always thinking about that newest stylist as well. More tips, right? Should be more money in everyone's pocket, more community impact as well, right? You're boosting additional customers' confidence by having a positive experience in our salon. You have 100 more a week that's coming in 2024. That's a lot of customers that get their lives changed. You're also known as industry experts. When people think in your community, I need to go get a haircut today. Well, if you're affecting that many more individuals who might be telling that many more people, you're seen as the experts when it comes to giving great haircuts and experiences. So what happens if we lose? What happens if you do not hit that goal? Well, I picture this. Okay, this is the level at which, like, I'm thinking about my goal. If I was in your situation, I could mentally see the stylist at the competitor down the road taking that money, right, that was meant for me, but because I didn't hit that goal, and then putting it in their own pocket. I didn't put it on here, but I was like, that was my money, right? I don't want to put, other stylists are putting, your money in their pockets, but that's where I kind of have that almost mental image of that happening if I was in your situation. That's what would drive me. What about the people in the community that they believe less in themselves because their boss that day called them a loser? And they need a confidence pickup. right? Some guy, some accountant somewhere, some girl, they had a bad day at the office. Their confidence, their self-image took a tank. And because they did not come into your salon that day for that confidence boost, they got affected and they never recovered. Right? To me, that's when I talk about impact. It's not just the feel good moments. It's what happens if I don't work my guts out to go and help. And that means I don't get a chance to change that person's life. Is that a little heavy? Yeah, it's a little heavy, but that's going to drive me urgently and say, I can't wait for tomorrow to go and do what I can do today and go and accomplish. Now, I know the owners on this webinar, this third bucket is going to that's nails on a chalkboard. The idea that the brand up the street would become known as the industry expert, to become known as the best haircut in the area, that's nails on a chalkboard to anybody, right? And so that's what is at stake. When we think about this, we've got to understand how to communicate what is at stake. And it kind of looks like this. Take this little quote box there in the bottom corner. What if there was a manager that every day you're talking, look, guys, let's hit this goal together so we never have to question if we have what it takes ever again. Hey, guys, this is our opportunity. We're going to go out. We're going to crush this goal because we're capable of it. We're good enough to go and do it. We can become these industry experts. We can help more people and impact more people, right? We're not going to let the stylist up the road put our money in their pockets. We are going, if anyone's going to make the money this week, it's going to be our salon. It's going to go to our families, right? That's the ability to go in there and get people excited. It helps people come out of their funk and their lives of monotony and say, oh, yes, let's go. And if for that day they're engaged with you, they will urgently go after and chase that goal. Does that make sense? I'm going to take half a breath here before we switch because we got one last topic here before we go. All right. Here's my quote, or here's a quote from Charlie Munger, billionaire investor. All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. Now, he's not talking about actually dying, and he did die a couple weeks ago or months ago. This is probably somewhat of a distasteful quote for me to give you, but he's talking about investing. He says, I want to know where things will go south, so I'll never go there. That's as complicated as his investment strategy was. And so he came up with something that's called inverted thinking. If you purposefully wanted to fail at what you're trying to go and accomplish, how would you do it? You wanted to increase customers. Let's say the goal again, increase customer count. Let's take the 100. If I came to you and I said, if you wanted to ensure that you failed at that, let's say maybe if you wanted to decrease customer count, how would you do it? How would you sabotage this process? So you flip the process of, because anyone can come up with goals. Any of us can say, we want to go and accomplish this, so I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z. The problem is you got to look at it almost from if I wanted to fail at that, how would I ensure failure? And then you simply do the opposite steps. This is what's going to enable you to be able to think about some of the failure and then how to communicate a little bit better. I came up with these. So you all would be able to come up with 40. But here's what I say. If I was going to decrease customer count in a salon, I would start off with getting bad customer experience, right? Or a bad product, maybe a bad haircut. I would never thank anyone, or I would never ask them to come back. I'm not showing them clip notes. They're going to think that we're just like everybody else. We're not going to do anything to differentiate ourselves, right? So these type of elements, and you could, like I said, come up with 40 more. If your goal is to increase customer count in 2024, have a list of 45 things. Come up with as many as you could possibly come up with on the opposite process of saying, if I was going to ensure that we decreased or did not hit our goal this year, right? Talk about floor hours. Think about how would you purposefully ensure that you did not find any extra floor hours this year? And then just simply go out there and have the goal to do the opposite. But what this does is it gives clarity around the goal. And it also enables you to be able to communicate clearly what is at stake, which generates that urgency. When you understand those right steps to take, you'll start communicating those things differently to your team. Okay. So I know that there's a lot there. I hope that makes sense. And like I said, my goal for these is to be 30 minutes or less. I can't believe I feel like I just started, and it's 12:27. But I do have some time here. I would love if there's any questions. I would love to say, if there's a specific goal. First of all, let me ask you this. Okay, go over to the chat window just for a second. We're going to warm up the chat. Let me ask you a question. You're 6 months, or no, I'm sorry, it's February 6th. You're 1 month and 6 days into 2024. If you were to rate your team's urgency on a scale of 1 to 10 on being committed to that still after a month and 6 days, a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put your team right now? Love it. Yep. Yeah. And these will be all over the map. Yep. A 3, 4, 7, a 6, a 3. Yep. And what happens a lot of times, again, right, is the goal. Think about that. The magic dust has worn off of your team. Do they believe that anything will change if they don't go and hit it anymore? And so my last question to anybody before I just kind of open it up here for a few minutes, if there's something that you want to say, you're going, hey, we've got this goal and I cannot think of the types of failure, like what failure would create in doing that. I'd love to answer something like that. But let's just take the customer count growth example that we talked about. Can you think of something else that if you don't hit that, what happens? What does failure in that goal create for a team if you did not increase customer count by 100, if that was your goal? Can you come up with something that I didn't mention? Industry expertise, money that's meant for you in someone else's pocket, impact on the customers. Does anyone else have anything, another example of what else is at stake? Yeah, no wage increases. Absolutely. That's more money, right? That's more money to those families. I mean, if I've got kids at home, right? And it's not that I'm going to sit there, hey, if you don't go and do this, your kids won't eat lunch tomorrow. You don't have to communicate that, right? But whenever you're explaining to them and you're helping to, it's that rally cry of, look, guys, let's go do this. Like, let's not let so-and-so, I don't even want to say another brand up the road, but let's not let them, look, that's our market share. We got to go get that market share. Let's get that's our money. It's just waiting on us. Let's go do that. Less returns. Yeah. Salon closure. It's real. And that's probably a question that people won't ask on this, but you should, is how much should you communicate that type of thing? Well, if you're at risk of closing a salon, and this is up to your owner, right? If you're at risk of closing a salon in like 4 weeks, I would be communicating it quite a bit. If you've got a healthy salon though, it's really a matter of saying, look, what happens when we grow, we impact, we go and get more, we help people, right? We make more money. And yeah, I mean, it's okay to explain, look, and if that doesn't happen, like, can you guys imagine instead of driving 5 minutes, you got to go drive 30 to another salon? And you just want to you can overdo it. Just like any movie out there, if there was never any opportunity to save Gotham, if you're sitting in a movie theater and you never start to believe that Batman is going to save the city, you're going to turn that movie off because it's so fear-based and it's all you do the whole time is you just think Joker's going to win. Right. So you can absolutely overdo it and go too negative, and you want to be careful with that. And really your franchisees are so good at something like this. They're going to have a crystal clear picture of how to communicate something like that and the right timing. Yeah. That's actually a lot. Not that that's a lot more than I thought it would be, but the salon closure aspect, 4 of you said that. You're right. So I would, what a great exercise that would be. How can I communicate this in a way that speaks to that type of threat without hanging it over people's heads? And I think it goes back to that type of thing. It comes back to fulfilling our full potential. It's appreciating, like, don't we love the fact that we've got this salon? Isn't this in a great area? You know, when you're talking about the community, when you're talking about specific customers that you all have time and time again, being able to say, you know, man, it's so great that we get to serve, you know, Jennifer that comes in every 3 weeks, or Rob who brings in his two boys with Mohawks because they're big Mohawk Warrior fans. Those type of elements are really, really good. But yes, that's a great exercise, thinking about how to communicate that in a way that a movie would, right? The audience knows that the salon has a potential to close, but that gets them excited to go and grow it. They're not just trying to avoid failure. They've got a crystal clear picture of what success does look like. That's very good. All right, we've got about 3 minutes left. Are there any questions that you guys might have before we sign off here? I would also strongly recommend this book, and links to it are in the PDF, by the way. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And it does seem like it's customer focused, but it's I think it's actually made me probably a better leader than anything else. It's also changed the way I do Instagram stories, my social media content. If you're struggling with social media, pick up that book. It'll help you big time. All right, Manisha, according to you, is working on one goal more effective than having 2 or 3 annual goals? I think the timing of that is, it's got to be specific, meaning I think the best process, let's go back to my soccer example. I knew I wanted to win a state championship, but there were a lot of steps along the way to that. So I had a crystal clear idea of what the goal needed to be, but the daily things, the daily goals I had are what enabled me to avoid the failure of missing that goal. So I do think it's good to have a main common, what are we doing? That's the battle we're charging right now. And then the ability as a leader to be able to communicate the steps and the small goals along the way. And I don't know if I'm exactly answering that question, Manisha, but yeah. And here's the thing. If you take the 3 goals, let's just take that example, right? Is one goal more effective than having the 2 or 3 annual goals? Those annual goals should all build towards creating this story for your people, right? Communicating what that success looks like, and also that they believe that by achieving it, it's going to avoid those failures. I do think that that's the case, but I don't think you can chase 3 rabbits at one time, right? Or you'll catch none of them. And you can as a leader, but what you're communicating to your team is going to be really important on that. All right, guys. I know we're out of time. Thank you all. I'm going to send some stuff your way. It should be waiting in your email, the PDF. But I really appreciate you guys so much. We will keep these going. Oh, man. Right before it goes off here, let me get you our next one. How to absolutely crush your goals. March 5th. March 5th at noon. Would love it if you guys joined us for that. And I'm excited about this. This is that other aspect of that story. Okay, we're going to create